Morning. Did it yesterday. I woke up with some takes, so I'll do it again today. Almost 8 o'clock in the West. Good morning, everybody. It's clear Schefter doesn't like Trey Lance. Let's talk about that. Watching Schefter yesterday on Pat McAfee. Oh, by the way, was messing around with something this morning. You know, we did. It's just me hanging. We did a Larry Krueger show the other day, and he had this really good open. And John and I were both kind of jealous. Like, damn, Larry, that was good. How'd you do that? He's like, oh, my guy did it for me. So I texted him. I said, Larry, how'd your guy do that? He said, Canva. So I said, okay, maybe we can. I mean, I used the thumbnails or Canva. Don't do it. You know, the video intro was the one we used to use was like a basic one made on Premiere Pro, but with an amateur making it. So here we go. Let's start it.
Promo code ham.
Not bad, right? I mean, not bad. All right. So this morning I got up, I was watching yesterday's McAfee, which I know some of Schefter's stuff. I saw some of that in my timeline yesterday. And he said a lot of stuff about Trey Lance. Oh yeah, I'll get to this. This is a good comment. So here's what I'll just give you a quick rundown, then react to it. No trade market for Trey Lance. Needs more explosion. I know. No trade market for Trey Lance. Knew that. It said Sam Darnold signed with the Niners on the first day of free agency, so that means the team really liked him. Okay. Knew that. He said this. My guess would be that Sam Darnold, talking about if, you know, they're talking about like Brock coming back from injury, if Brock isn't ready in time. My guess would be that Sam Darnold has a chance to shine going into camp. Sam Darnold has the edge. Anxious to see if Lance makes the jump. That was the other thing he said. And the argument, the thumbnail here says Schefty's Trey Lance argument. The argument he responded to was McAfee's setup, which was, you know, we haven't really got a chance to watch Trey Lance. They haven't really got a chance to watch Trey Lance. I've said it. A lot of people have said it's a legitimate, I think, take, right? I said it the other day to Larry. Anyone could say it. You just got to look at his game log. He has not played a lot. And when he has played, he has not played consistently, meaning a month in a row, right? If he was a baseball player, you'd say, yeah, you brought him up to the big leagues, but you're not letting him slump and dig out. You're not letting him get consistent ABs. That's what it would be. You're not letting him get consistent ABs, right? Letting or earn, whatever. It's not about, don't focus on the letting word, but he hasn't gotten consistent at bats. Schefter's argument was this, and I think this is fair. Somebody, you know, we started this by saying clearly he hates Trey. I went to a few OTAs practices. Many reporters were out there for all the OTA practices. And if Schefter was there when I was there, I missed him. It's not to say that Adam doesn't know. It's to say that Adam's information does not come from standing there for 2 hours watching Trey going, oh, I think his motion is quicker. His information comes from talking to people in the building. Remember, who did he cover? He cut his teeth covering Mike Shanahan's Broncos. Blah, we all know this. Kyle was the ball boy, etc. But this is what he said. McAfee says they haven't got a good look at him. Schefter says, but they have gotten a good look at him. They've seen him every day. And then he started going through. They've seen him in OTAs. They've seen him in practice. They've seen him in meetings. They've seen him in preseason. They've seen him in the regular season. Now, what they've seen so far might be different than what they'll see in the future. Doesn't mean he won't be better. He's learning, he's growing, evolving, and continues to do so. So he had an optimistic tone that the work that he's doing in the offseason could return him back in camp a better player. I also feel there could be, I have an optimistic tone with it as well, myself, as we've talked about this. I also think that it is fair, and this is Larry Krueger, when we did his show the other day, asked a very good question, and it took me a second to figure out how I felt about it and articulate it. His question was, what do you feel like you know concretely about Trey? I'm like, well, like McAfee, this is exactly the same thing, right? McAfee says, how can we really form any legitimate, strong, long opinions, whatever. And my answer was, well, here's what we know so far, what Kyle thinks. Like whether it's hard for me to know exactly because he hasn't played a lot. And I do believe you need to play a little bit and get comfortable. Most people do. But I do think we know what Kyle thinks based on the way he's called games when Trey played. So, when Schefter says yesterday, but they have gotten a good look at him, I think that's kind of the same answer as, well, yeah, based on everything else they've done, they believe that when he plays, they can't call the game the same way that they will for other quarterbacks that they have. Maybe in some ways that's a good thing. Maybe ideally you would get a guy who can run the ball a little bit, like they've tried to with Trey, like Lamar, not like Lamar, but Lamar, all the guys we know, Josh Allen, whatever. So, to me, that lines up. What Schefter said lines up with the way Kyle acts. Doesn't mean it's correct. It just means he's telling us what the Niners think. So when he says, again, not watching reps, when he says, and he said it, emailing, just my opinion, when he says, my guess would be that Sam Darnold has a chance to shine. Going into camp, Sam Darnold has the edge. That is not how I felt watching OTAs. So I differ on that opinion from Adam, but it's not that his opinion is different than my opinion. I think he is telling us what he is hearing from whoever, from people. One thing we know is that he is very connected in the Niners building, and he's very connected with the Shanahan. So, he's. I know I started this with Jay Love's comment. It's clear Schefter doesn't like Trey Lance. I don't think Adam evaluates stuff like that. I think Adam has the best connections, and he tells us what his people are telling him. So I don't think it's about who he likes and who he doesn't like. Now, I'll follow it up with this other comment. He came on your show and said the Niners were taking Mac Jones with no doubts at all. Did he say with no doubts at all? I don't remember the exact specifics of how he said it. Everybody, a lot of people were reporting Mac Jones. And what I've said consistently since the draft, like not 3 weeks later or a year later, since the draft was, I think it's easy for all of us. I was not Mac Jones. John certainly, right? He called it. He said it would be the most arrogant draft pick in the history of the draft if they took him. In other words, like, you really think so highly of yourself that you could take this guy third. He does not have number 3 overall talent. But what I've said consistently is that I think it's easy to jump on all those guys, Schefter, Silver, NFL Network guys. Yeah, I mean, I name them, like a lot of people, Schrager maybe, and say that they were all wrong, which they were. They were wrong. But I don't think it was I think there was smoke there. I think the reason they were wrong is that there was something to Kyle Shanahan liked Mac Jones. In other words, they were wrong, but I don't think they were as wrong as, they all got piled on afterwards. Part of their wrongness was being so adamant that there was no other option. But maybe it was coming from Mike. Remember, MIDDLEKAUFF had the theory, like, Mike Shanahan likes to talk to the media. But I think the fact that they were all so wrong together actually told us something about the veracity, the likelihood of that at some point that Mac Jones was a very significant consideration. Now, Schefter actually said yesterday that they weren't at the end. They weren't torn. That it wasn't two different warring factions. Which at the end, I mean, I think Kyle started out wanting Mac. At the end, Kyle ultimately is going to draft the guy he wants to draft. So, I think there was something there. Big Des says the fact that we've been talking about Darnold is a joke. Well, I mean, look, I did watch the end of Darnold's season last year, and I did think that Darnold showed some things. What are we talking about here? We're talking about the backup quarterback position. That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about starter. We're talking about the backup quarterback position. What makes it interesting is that the backup quarterback just might end up starting week 1 because the 49ers starting quarterback is coming off a major surgery. Now, is he on pace? Schefter says yes. Are they optimistic? Everybody says yes. But he's not back. One thing we've learned about this you're not back till you're back. So that's part of why this is such a big story. I don't think it's crazy that we're talking about Sam Darnold. I don't think Trey Lance has done enough to show that like nobody's allowed to challenge him. I do think the Sam Darnold optimism is the people that are Sam Darnold optimists are much higher on the possibilities than me. Yes, he's young. Yes, he's got a good arm. I don't think it plays as well in games as maybe the talent that exists. But I also think he holds on to the ball a lot. Like if you go watch it, you go look at the numbers, even in OTAs, we saw it. And OTAs, there's not, you can hold on the ball as long as you want. Nobody's hitting you. But I'm not, for me, it's not Trey. It's not Sam ahead of Trey. I think they're even. And you could argue, well, if they're even, then isn't Sam going to get ahead of him because Sam has only been here for one OTAs. Trey Lance been here 2.5 years. So he'll get up to speed with the offense and be better. Maybe. But, I also think there was a part of Trey Lance's game, in theory, a lot of this is in theory. There's a part of his game that, in theory, should translate to real live action because of his athleticism. And, I think we need to reserve to wait for the possibility that once he gets in some games, if he's a more comfortable player, he is just a more natural player and a better player. And, we'll see if Sam Darnold has that. David says, can Trey hit 65 completion? Can he score 30? The Darnold thing makes sense if they really don't want to give Trey a chance. I don't think there's really any reason not to give Trey a chance. There's no trade market. He's not going anywhere. You like the guy. He's not a pain in the ass. He's not a malcontent. He's sharp. There's no reason not to give him, whatever chances he earns. Now, if you think Darnold's better, I'll disagree right now, but fine. But there's no reason. Now, can he be 65%? I mean, 30 points a game. I look at those as two different things. Like one is efficiency, right? And one is explosion. I know that was part of what made Purdy special was that they were efficient and they were more explosive. 65%. Like let's just, I'm going to look real quick. Josh Allen. How long did it take Josh Allen to get to 65%? My guess is 3 years. 52, 59, 69. So year 3, Josh Allen got above 65%. Yeah, I mean, there's no question with this offense. It's more about consistency than explosion, but he's not getting 3 years. I think Niners see the floor on Trey. Meaning what? See the floor? Like it's a high floor or low floor? If Trey is bad and sucks, why want the team to just trade him? Are they worried he might go somewhere else? Why won't the team just trade him? Because there's not a market. There's no market. I mean, you're not going to trade him. I wouldn't do it. You're not going to trade him for a fit. Like, what would you trade? What would you trade him for? A fourth? Well, you're not getting a fourth, even if you would trade him for a fourth. Personally, boy, I don't think I'd trade him for a fourth, even though that'd be pretty good value at this point for, third string quarterbacks don't get traded for fourths. And if he is your third string quarterback, then I'd understand it. You could make the case Brandon Allen can be a serviceable third stringer. Darnold's your 2. You trade him for a fourth, but no one's offering. They're not offering anything. So, that's part of it. And this goes back to the Jimmy conversation. I never subscribed to the let him go and go on with his life because you might need him. Like your job as the team is to do what's best for the team. And sometimes that's not best for a player's freedom, but you got to do what's best for you. And the Niners did that with Jimmy. Like they treated Jimmy well and they strung him along, whatever. But at the end of the day, they kept him on the team. They did not let him go. They tried to trade him. No trade market, got healthy. Fine, we'll keep you. And guess what? They needed him. And that's how I feel about Trey. I mean, we just saw last year play out. There's the possibility that he plays games for them this year. I would say the odds are pretty good that Trey Lance plays for the 49ers this year. Just not based on anything about Brock specifically, other than he's hurt right now. He has not played a full NFL season. Kyle Shanahan's quarterbacks have gotten hurt pretty consistently. And the 49ers have used multiple quarterbacks almost every year. So I think we'll see him. Can you imagine if the Niners had never drafted Purdy? You know, Joe, yes. I was thinking today that would make the Trey Sam thing, or how would that have played out? Maybe they end up trying to acquire Kirk Cousins this year or something like that. But I was thinking about that today when I was watching the Schefter thing this morning with McAfee. Like, just go back, think about how different we are a year later. This time last year, coming out of the OTAs, Brock Purdy was, on a scale of 1 to 100, 100 being the biggest story in sports and 1 being the smallest story in sports, he was a 1. Now he's like a 91. Like, I'm watching Schefter. It's not Schefter's first appearance on McAfee, I don't think, but McAfee talked it up like, we're on ESPN now, so here's Schefter. So couldn't have been his first appearance. But it's not the first topic, but I think it was the longest thing they talked about was the Niners quarterback situation. They talked about Hopkins, and I think they talked maybe Dalvin Cook should be a Jet or something like that. But then they talked about the Niners quarterback situation. It is, from last year to this year, it's insane. The position, and Brock Purdy's a human being who last year nobody talked about, and now everybody talks about. So if he doesn't watch McAfee or doesn't watch NFL Live or doesn't get on IG or whatever, then it's easy to stay in that bubble. But there is a major change in Brock Purdy's offseason. In addition to the injury, there is a whole other set of pressure on him. And this whole, Darnold and Trey get a lot of time in terms of conversation, but it's all set up with it. But Brock's the guy, right? Brock's the guy. Kyle said on Brandon Marshall's podcast that it was either Trey and Mac. I remember we were there that day last year when Brandon Marshall was there with his guys for his show. And he's a big ass dude. It's pretty shocking that he played a receiver and not defensive end or something. But yeah, you're right. Kyle has confirmed it. That narrative is not a narrative. It is a fact. It is a fact. Maybe I'll check the draft coverage. They drafted Trey Lance on a Thursday night. On Friday, I said that was true. And it's why I go back to, all the Mac Jones reporters were wrong, but I don't think they were wrong just because they were guessing. I think there was a reason to think that. Is the Darnold QB2 backlash the same as if it was Matt Ryan? Mark, you're saying if Matt Ryan was on this team and the number 2 quarterback, would people argue about it as much as if it was Darnold? No, they wouldn't. Now, Matt Ryan's out of work. Well, he's not out of work. He's not a quarterback anymore. I don't know what CBS, I think, hired him. CBS. But he's less mobile. That'd be a problem. But he's an MVP. College coaches want Lance to play safety. Yeah. One Division I college coach wanted Lance to play safety. PJ Fleck in Minnesota. That was it. Can Trey get cut? Could he? I don't think so. You need him. You might need him. I think you're going to need him. I don't think that's a consideration. Eric, fans are spoiled by Mahomes' immediate productivity. They expect all QBs to perform the right way, but that is the drastic outlier, not the norm. It's funny that the standard for the hardest position in sports to play is the outliers. The standard is Joe Montana, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Brett Favre, Drew Brees. Those are the standards. Most guys are not that standard. That's part of it, right? Like, a top 5 quarterback means there's 5 of them. I think when Mike Sando has done the quarterback tiers, I think it's a great list every year because it really kind of illustrates what do you need to win? And I think the answer, what you need to win, is a top 15 quarterback, depending on your team, right? The top 5 guys can just straight up carry you. Top 3 guys, right? Like, really carry you. Even they need an offensive line. And I think that is one of the most under-discussed parts of the Niners this offseason, is they're going through a lot of change. They're going to rely more on guards that they rotated last year. Everything that anyone said about McGlinchey, he got a lot of money. That Colton McKivitz, no one was getting Colton McKivitz that much money if he was a free agent. So much of this, you're coming off a Brock Purdy injury, and we got to make sure you can protect him or protect Darnold or protect Lance or protect Brandon Allen in the NFC Championship game if you're so lucky. So, yeah, I mean, this is 100% true. You're constantly looking for your Mahomes. You're constantly looking. That's what the Niners did with Trey Lance. I was in favor of it. Or if it had been Justin Fields, try and swing big. That's why you're drafting third. But, the data is there when it comes to the draft. You are not getting that guy more often than not. And it's going to take some luck. So, Mark, how can you have a ham podcast without MIDDLEKAUFF? Fabulous question. But the channel's here. And summer's going on. We did a show the other day and we're like, we're taking some time summer. And I'm free in the mornings. I don't go to the driving range for a few more hours. I'm working on my swing. I'm usually chopping. I'm trying to really get a little smoother. Got new clubs coming. And there's no rules here. So we'll operate that way. Also, by the way, got a haircut today. A lot of you guys have been asking me about my routine. I do get a lot of questions about hair product. And so go to my Instagram page, and I put a little video of my barber explaining how he does the cut. If you like it, maybe you think it sucks. If you like it, thank you. Let's see here. No market because of the ask or no buyers? I think both. You have to take on the salary. If you're a GM, you are really putting your neck out there. If you take on $8 million for Trey Lance at this point, and you give up a pick of value for him, you're not doing that to have him come back up your guy, right? You're doing that to develop. But you're really putting your neck on the line with your owner, with your coach, or if you're a coach, you're doing it with your GM and your owner. So I don't think there was really much. I don't think there's really much consideration there. Oh, Mark adds, no disrespect. One of the great morning wisdom. Don't be offended. Just don't be offended. I mean, there are some things that are extremely offensive, but I mean, generally in your day-to-day life, somebody doesn't hold the door for you at the Starbucks. Not worth it. Refuse to be offended. I refuse to be offended. Yeah, but is he on CBS? Where is he? Scared if Brock doesn't come back, the fan base is going to if Brock doesn't come back the same, fan base is going to destroy him, which would be unfair taking his injury consideration. Trey's handled himself well. Trey's handled himself very well. Brock has handled himself well. I think Brock will continue to handle himself well. I also think Brock's sample size was small and he still has something to prove. And forget about the fan base destroying him. If he's not as good, Kyle will make a change. Matthew, Pink Onion Pizza. I emailed you the other day, Matt, because I saw you in the chat on the other thing. And I said, did I see you in the chat? But I did see you in the chat. Where are we playing? I'm waiting on the new Strixons. What are those? The ZX5 Mark IIs are on the way. Thanks to ZX5 Mark II irons with some recoil graphite shaft. Is Trey, this is a good question, KP. Is Trey messing up his career if he doesn't ask for a trade? I don't think so. We did a video today about should Trey ask for a trade. I don't think he's messing up his career by not asking for a trade. Would he have been better off if he just straight up played right away? He would have been better off in this situation had he played from the beginning. Sam Darnold played right away. Zach Wilson played right away. I shouldn't just name Jets quarterbacks. There are plenty of guys who played right away in bad situations, and it was also terrible. So it's not a given that anywhere you go, just playing will be good for your career. I do think at the end of the day, Kyle Shanahan's a really good coach. the 49ers are stacked offensively. So this has been far from an ideal situation for Trey, but, or to quote Stephen A., however, it could be a lot worse also. If Zach Wilson handled himself, if Brock handled himself in a more Zach Wilson manner, would he be as popular? No. If Zach Wilson handled himself in a Brock Purdy manner, would he be more popular? Yes. We know John's already at the range. Thank you. Good. Appreciate that. Reed makes sure that Mahomes is protected. Kyle doesn't care about the O-line as long as the D-line is good. I think he does care about the O-line. Brock doesn't. Oh, I'm going some comments. Brock doesn't come back the same, and I'm a big Brock guy, but if he doesn't come back the same, give one of the other three a chance. Other three? We're keeping 4 quarterbacks? Brandon Allen's making the team too? That'd be something. I think Brock will be back physically. I just think he hasn't played a lot of football. And, things evolve. You got to get better. They start throwing you a curveball. Now you got to hit the curve. Now you got to, I'm watching Casey Schmidt of the Giants. Last night, watching the Giants, Casey Schmidt has been in and out of the lineup, struggling, hitting 260, which is respectable considering how much he's been struggling because he came up and blew things up for the first week, hitting 4 whatever. So that's just part of it. Teams are going to spend the offseason studying him. They're the number 2 seed last year. Like, you look at the Niners, like, we got to beat that team. So they're going to spend time on Brock. Brock Purdy's not under the radar. They're going to spend time preparing for him. Schefter didn't say anything we haven't already heard before. No, but he did say it on June 21st without having been to camp. So I just, for me, it was relevant because it's not what I think. I don't think Sam's ahead of Trey, but he does, and I think he's basing that on, what they've talked to, who he's talked to. How does Minnesota see their division right now and not try their hardest to tank for Caleb? Does winning 8 to 10 games with Kirk, then potentially losing him for nothing, outweigh the next Mahomes? Caleb Williams is going to be everything that everybody thinks he's going to be. I don't know. What do you do with Kirk? Do you pay him? What do? You cut him? And just, I don't know what you do. They won 13 games last year. That's the other crazy part. Ibis World. Isn't it fascinating? The question is, do you build the team and add the quarterback, or do you get the quarterback and add the team around him? I think it's hard to really line it up that way. The only way to do that is to really tank. And how do you do it? I don't think you can choose. Sometimes you have a good team and you try to get the quarterback. Sometimes you have a terrible team, and so you reach for the quarterback. The Niners were in a weird spot of having a good team and reaching for a quarterback. That's different. I don't know if it's unheard of, but it's different. But I just think I think it's really hard. Like, seasons are long. It takes a long time to turn over rosters. Coaches have to have patience, or owners have to have patience. Coaches have to have leeway. GMs. I don't think you can choose which one to do. You just are in one of those situations usually, and then you try to you need luck a little, right? You need somebody else not to like your guy, all that kind of stuff. So Pittsburgh has the most time to prepare for Brock. Maybe he should sit until week 2 at the Steelers, week 1, week 2 at the Rams. Giants on Thursday Night Football, Cardinals at home, Cowboys at home. That's 3, 4, 5. I wonder if Kyle's going to go. It's tough. Is Kyle going to go like college football coach? College football coaches do it, right? Which is, I'll name us. I don't know the starter's going to be yet. They always wait till the last second to name their starter. I wonder if part of this, if you're the Niners, you're not saying Brock isn't going to be ready. You're just not saying there is no question he is going to be ready. And I wonder, it'll be interesting how long they can play that. Like, when practice starts and Brock is practicing and he's practicing with the ones. Is he playing in the preseason? How do they manage that? I think the answer to that's got to be no. But I do wonder, are they going to try and drag this thing out as long as possible just to this point, just to make it a little harder on Pittsburgh? It's a very college thing to do, but I don't know. Morning, why does everyone take what Adam says as gold? Because he's really well connected. It doesn't mean he's gonna be right all the time, but I am not into the Schefter bashing. Everything he says, there's some research and a purpose behind it. Doesn't mean it's all right. Maybe sometimes somebody's trying to get a message out there, right? But it comes from a place worth paying attention to. That's always been my feeling on that. I feel like Kyle is going hot hand this year to see if Brock is going to be the same QB as last year. Everything in Kyle's history says that's how he rolls, right? He doesn't stick long with the guy if he has another option. So, all right. Any sources, any direct quotes? In Schefter's interview? No. But we know. I think you put pieces of the puzzle together here. And his career track record doesn't mean he's never been wrong. But we know that Schefter is not just reading RotoWire and building all his opinions off of that, watching some YouTubes. We know this. And if you're an NFL coach, GM, whatever, it is good business to share information with Adam Schefter. It's good business, right? Because you can try to get out there what you want to have out there. They pick up his calls. They call him. Why? He has information. Shares little, share a little, little this, you give, I give. Win-win. So, I think it's pretty well established. I think it's a waste of time to guess whether or not Adam Schefter has any backing to the things he says. Doesn't mean I'm not saying it's always right. I'm saying it's a waste of time to go like, well, he didn't cite the source, so he must be making it up. That's a waste of time. I think the time is better spent trying to figure out why whoever told him what they told him wanted that thing out there. I think that's a better waste of time. Not a better waste of time. Better waste of time. I like that. It's a better waste of time. Some things are bad waste of time, and some things are good waste of time. All right. We could keep going on this, but I got to go get loose. So maybe we'll do it again tomorrow. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. Thanks for hanging. Appreciate you guys jumping on. You know what? Before we go, do hit that like, hit that subscribe. There we go. Got a little this, a little this. I got some feedback. Somebody said early in the comments, the photos of us in the open didn't look good. I know they weren't the crisp. They weren't the crispest, but we'll see. Well, I appreciate the feedback. Niners NFC West champs a lock this week. This year, I was thinking this morning, I was thinking about kind of stock up, stock down in the NFC, because John's harped on how bad the NFC is going to be this year. We talked about it the other day a couple of times. And, we got asked, like, who's our sleeper teams? I'm like, well, I came up with one. You got me thinking about, like, who is trending, more like who's trending to be the competition in the NFC. So maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll chat about that tomorrow morning. I don't know. This seems like a good time for people. Have a good day. Don't be offended. Refuse to be offended. Here's your challenge today. Refuse to be offended. Refuse to be offended. Unless someone cuts you off in traffic, in which case chase them down. All right. Later, everybody.